what's going on to get a grasp of what the situation is. There's a naked guy.
I was laughing more at Tim's. I was laughing more at Tim's comment of no, thank you. That was. I'm like.
Okay.
Okay. It's not like.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know, like,
I thought you were.
But I like the no thank you sort of happen a good 10, 15 seconds into the whole slow.
Okay, we're all human beings. We're all going to be like we're all going to be like, this is a novel, right? Our eyes are drawn to the novel. I get that. It's not the issue. The issue was the no thank you comment.
I thought it was
judgmental, Tim.
I thought it was the like, oh my God, somebody's outside naked type thing, and then he was saying I had to look.
I understand how the human brain works. I get it.
Do you though?
I mean, I personally, I thought she would have been more offended if I hadn't looked.
But you had sunglasses on, so how could she have known that you looked?
That is Tim.
Unless you slowly 80s dropped your shades and looked. How would you know if you looked?
You dropped.
Was Laura walking right beside you and you became the living embodiment of that meme?
No. She was at home. I had to tell her about it later.
That's awesome. Speaking of things from the 80s, we watched Coming to America, the original, and then we watched Coming to Number 2 America, which is the sequel that Amazon has pushed out. Because it's fantastical, in the way that none of it is really real at all. In the first one, not as much in the second one. I think that Coming to America actually holds up as much as it did back then, other than the Jerry Curl, because they really pushed the Soul Glow, which is a Jerry Curl spray. Other than that point of it, because it's a country that doesn't exist, with a ruling class that doesn't exist per se for that country, and the way that Queens has been regentrified, but is still kind of necessarily not the best part of New York. I still feel it actually kind of holds up just a little bit. Coming to America 2, very much everything that you think the movie is going to be, it is that. Everything in today's standards, being that it's, and not that it's a criticism or anything like that, but it's very feminine forward in the movie, which is fine. Just different things that today we see more of in movies than we would have seen previously, for obvious and good reasons. But it's still, everything that you think is going to happen in the movie pretty much happens in the movie. But it's still funny as hell.
See, here's the problem. I can't take your word on it anymore after the whole Howard the Duck conversation.
Yeah, this is
everybody
the whole
has
movie tastes suspect now.
Everybody has movies that are very suspect, all right? Everybody has a movie that they're like, that's a good movie. And people are like, no, it's not.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure we all have one somewhere in the archive.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't even know what Howard the Duck is.
You haven't seen Howard the Duck? Oh.
No.
You're missing out.
Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes.
At the very end of Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a duck in one of the collector's boxes. And at the very end of that, like in the post-credits trailer scenes, he's sitting there after the collector's apartment or whatever has been blown up, drinking a martini.
He's a hard-drinking, crime-fighting duck in the Marvel Universe. He's a character that's created in the 70s. I actually have some of the comics.
So do I.
But in the 70s, he was more like the humor from the comics was like very weird and existential and kind of philosophical. So it was a very strange comic book to be adapted to a stupid movie in the 80s, because the comic book is a lot more thoughtful and interesting.
Of course.
But
you say that about every comic book.
That's valid. I do. I'm a comic book stan. But no, it's a weird movie.
It is. Yeah, you have to take yourself out of it. It's a
13% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Why is that high?
It's not Trolls 2, but it is pretty low on there. It's the thing. It's one of those movies. It's a guilty pleasure movie for some people. I'll come right out and say that I like it. I liked it as a child. I like how campy and weird it is. The visuals that they actually have in the movie in its time are actually not bad. ILM did a really good job with trying to get some of the visuals somewhat looking nice, comparatively to other
Wait, is it a Lucasfilm? Is it Lucasfilm too? Is he involved?
No, it is. Is it Spielberg?
Spielberg involved.
Spielberg. Oh my God.
Something like that. I know the pedigree on it is pretty high. I thought it was Lucas, but
okay. So here's the question for you: if you had to rank them, which is worse, Howard the Duck or Mac and Me?
I haven't seen Mac and Me.
Mac and Me is absolutely friggin' horrible.
I've seen YouTube videos about Mac and Me, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, I mean, at least Mac and Me is a giant McDonald's commercial.
Yeah. What was that, Troy?
It's 4% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, Mac and Me. There's one great thing that came from Mac and Me was the Paul Rudd memes.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd memes make the Mac and Me worthwhile.
When he shows up to do Conan's show.
Yeah, when he shows up to Conan's show, he's like, "Yeah, I have a video clip for my new movie," and Conan's like, "Cool." And so one scene from Mac and Me with the wheelchair is going off a cliff. Every time, and Conan gets like really irritated, and it's really good. It's really fun.
See, the reason I have to give a little bit. Okay, so Mac and Me is objectively horrible, but it's so horrible it almost becomes funny again. So Paul Rudd's not going to make Howard the Duck do like a clip. It's just it's awful, but doesn't quite meet awful enough that it can just become
Mac and Me again. Like again, I've watched YouTube videos on it, and they break it down like almost scene by scene in Mac and Me, and it's like ridiculously stupid. Like it's like next level. Like
I gotta watch this now because I thought the stupidest movie on the planet was Anchorman, but you guys say it's this bad, I gotta see it.
Anchorman is intentionally stupid though. Mac and Me is like they thought having a dance number in the middle of McDonald's in the middle of a movie for no reason whatsoever was a good idea.
Yeah, but Anchorman to me wasn't funny. It was stupid and it wasn't funny. I hated it. I walked out.
You're like my roommate. My roommate also hates Will. You hate Will Farrell?
Some of his movies are okay, but I couldn't do it. I walked into the theater, sat down for about half an hour, and I said, I don't want to see this, and I left.
Well, it's the difference is though, is so Anchorman wasn't supposed to be like a serious movie about an anchor. It was supposed to be dumb comedy. Mac and Me was supposed to be like a ripoff of ET&T, but supposed to be done seriously, like for kids, right? Like they tried to seriously make a kids movie, like E.T., except they didn't have a budget, so McDonald's offered them a bunch of money if they mentioned McDonald's every 30 seconds. I guess it's sort of just like the
wasn't it made it was some billionaire, some really rich guy wanted to make Mac and Me. I think that was the story behind it. There's some crazy story behind Mac and Me. That but yeah, I hear. I mean, Anchorman. I'm not sure if Anchorman. I haven't watched Anchorman in years. I remember liking it when I was like an edgy 20-year-old, or in my edgy 20s. I'm wondering if it holds up.
I'm sure it has its audience, so don't take my word for discrediting the movie. But I personally hated it. But I'm also the guy that hates The Office, so
it's okay to hate The Office. I mean, it's I like it, but I can see, I can also see why people might not like Anchorman. Like my wife, she can't stand Will Ferrell. So I mean, you're not, necessarily alone in disliking Anchorman.
I like some stuff that Will Ferrell's in, not everything. I don't like the stereotype Will Ferrell that he plays in a lot of his movies. Like Frank the Tank is Will Ferrell in 80% of his movies. But then you get things, I can't remember, there's a movie where he's a divorcee, and he gets kicked out of the house by his wife, and he essentially lives in a bowling alley out of a garbage bag. It's a really good movie. There's another one that's called
Well, there's this one he did, Serious, Stranger Than Fiction.
Stranger Than Fiction is the other one that I was thinking of. That was a really good movie as well, where it's not him being a crazy idiot. It's him actually acting and emoting correctly instead of just being like, ah!
It's always interesting when these comedic actors take on, like, so Jim Carrey was another one who it's like, okay, I'm done talking on my butt for a while. Let's do something somewhat serious.
Mm-hmm.
Then he cranks out a few decent films out of that.
Yeah, Spotless Mind there was really good.
I like Truman Show, even though it's technically a comedy.
It's a dramedy type of thing.
Yeah.
Truman Show, definitely Spotless Mind. What's the whole thing?
Yeah.
It's
Eternal Sunshine, Spotless Mind.
Sunshine, Spotless Mind. Yeah, that's definitely an awesome movie.
Yeah. That whole grouping of movies that happens in that era it's really good. Like that, there's a point in the 90s where it's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
It's like mid 90s to like the end of the 90s in that area somewhere.
No, Eternal Sunshine is like in the 2000s because it came after after Being John Malkovich. Being John Malkovich came out like 2000 I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like 99.
Well, I don't know. Fine then. Be that way.
2004.
Have knowledge.
I will be that way.
But like movies, I don't know. I group that together. I don't know. I group it within my late teens, early 20s type of thing. So like Matrix and Dark City and like Donnie Darko.
Dark City is so good.
Stuff like that. Like movies that kind of started that dark genre of movie.
Have you seen any of these movies, Troy?
From that list?
Yeah.
I saw The Matrix.
Yeah.
I don't really recognize the other ones. Dark City, no.
Yeah, Dark City came out a year before The Matrix.
Yeah.
And it was terrific. Like, it's such a good movie.
Yeah.
It's funny because it came out before The Matrix, yet people have called it a ripoff of The Matrix.
What?
Yeah.
For the longest time. And it's like, it predates The Matrix.
It also...
Now, how does it age?
I haven't seen it in years, but I imagine it would age well.
Yeah, it's, once again, it's a completely fantastical movie. There's nothing realistic in the movie. And it's set in the past. So it's not like... Well, okay, I'm just saying...
Not really established.
Yeah, there's nothing there that's... you're not... Well, the movies that are aging themselves out, they're usually movies in that present time that don't hold up. Movies that are set either in the past or well into the future that we're not running into, unlike Back to the Future or whatever, tend to hold up more because they're not within the time that they're set in.
Right.
So you can look back and be like, oh yeah, back then, or whoa, way up there type of thing.
Also ones that rely a little more heavily on practical effects and practical like models and things like that. If you're talking like sci-fi or something like that, as opposed to pure CGI. Because, I think everyone saw Troy is joining again. What is going on here? Joined us twice, according to this.
Troy, just two Wookiee monsters.
And there's one. What the? Okay. Yeah, so like, for example, if you compare like, okay, so I'll give a TV example. Two shows that happened at the same time. So you had Babylon 5 and you had Deep Space Nine just run right around the same time. I think one started a year before the other. Deep Space Nine, however, they relied much more heavily on models, whereas all CGI on Babylon 5. Babylon 5 looks like a dumpster fire visually looks like a dumpster fire compared to Deep Space Nine, largely because of the reliance on CGI. Same is true with movies though. Like look at the Star Wars prequels and compare it to like the original Star Wars trilogy. Like you think the original Star Wars trilogy that predated like 25 years before the prequels would look worse, but actually they look a heck of a lot better because of the reliance on practical effects.
Then if you want to go that side of practical effects, if you take a look at Babylon 5, which is a CGI dumpster fire, to, let's say, Farscape, which is a practical effects dumpster fire. As much as I love it, because it is Jim Henson forward, and I love all the puppets and everything else that are in it.
I think it's still held up better than Babylon 5.
I don't think it would hold up, to watch it. We tried watching it a little while, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, something like that, and it did not hold up well. The first.